and welcome back to the Crystalina Perspective. So I'm going to make a video. I've been getting a lot of questions about this topic. I made a video about 12 months ago about my LPN journey. So I'm doing like a response to quite a few of the questions in the comments section regarding how to fund your LPN or practical nursing education. So education is not cheap, especially if you have a degree in some other field, particularly a bachelor's degree. Now, if you have an associate's degree, you typically can still kind of get some forms of like grants, and it's easier to get scholarships and stuff. But when you have a bachelor's and add a master's with that bachelor's, it makes it very, very, very difficult to get funding for school. And let's just be real, nursing school is expensive. Whether you are LPN or RN or whatever, it's all expensive. You have to pay for books, you have to pay for uniforms, you have fees associated with like physicals and shots and TB skin test, and it's just a ton of funding that you have to figure out in order to make your program work. So basically what I had to do, since I did have a bachelor's and a master's, I basically had to take out student loans. So that was the first way of funding my education. Now, just because I took out student loans don't mean that I just act the plum fool and took out everything. Plus, the school I went to had like a strict cap on how much money I could get. So I still ended up owing like $15,000 to $1,500 after the student loans. Plus, let's also let's understand that tuition and books are two separate things. Now, when you're in a 4-year university, some schools factor that in, but when you're like doing a professional schools, they tell you your books are guesstimated to be this certain amount. And basically you have to take that guesstimate and make the best decision on how you're going to get the money to purchase whatever books. And they always give you a required and recommended book list. So you basically have to sit there, play with funds, and figure it out. And we'll get to that recommended required books in a second. So basically that was just tuition. And that $1,000 to $1,500 that I did still owe, I basically had to figure out a way to pay that, simply because that was still tuition. That wasn't books or anything like that. So aside from the student loans, the second thing that I did to fund my LPN education was I bit the bullet and applied for scholarships. And the reason why I said bite the bullet is because scholarships are harder and harder to get nowadays. Like, it used to be where you could easily fill out a form and that's your application for a scholarship. Well, now you have to write like 10 essays, exaggeration, but quite a few essays, or you have to write a really good essay in order to even be kind of considered for the award money. And not all scholarships pay the full amount. Like, a lot of the scholarships I got were like $250, $500, what have you. So that was the second thing with scholarships. You can get scholarships through community organizations, through jobs, your school. So that's basically what I did. I applied for scholarships through my local nurses association. So that's a good place to start, finding a nursing association. And there are quite a few nursing associations, but for minorities, there's an organization called the National Black Nurses Association. And under that association, here in Little Rock, It's called the Little Rock Black Nurses Association of Arkansas. So I was able to apply for a book stipend through them, and that book stipend like helped the sister out quite a bit. And so I did that, and then I also applied for scholarships through my school. And my school, we had to write like 6 paragraphs, and it was basically short answered questions that you had to answer. So I bit the bullet, and that's what I did. So that's a second way that you can secure funding for your education. The third way is getting a job. Yeah, getting a job. I worked all the way through nursing school, and I'm still working. And working doesn't make it easier. Working isn't one of those things that, you're just like, oh, like some people are happy to work, but for the most part, working is just something that you just have to factor into your routine. So your routine with studying, your routine with going to class, your routine with clinicals, whatever the case may be, working is something that if you have to do it, you just have to do what you have to do, because at the end of the day, if you have a bachelor's and a master's degree and you're doing a career change, 9 out of 10 you have bills, simply because you was probably doing something else before, or you had found a job, even if it wasn't in your field, just you were living. So you still have to continue to live. Some people have children, husbands, whatever the case may be, wives. You still have to do what you have to do. So work was the third option for me. And basically, during my time in practical nursing school, I worked as a phlebotomist in a lab. And I also worked a few PRN jobs. Like I worked at Sephora, the makeup store. I was a fragrance consultant there. And I also did like some color here or there at the beauty studio. I worked at Pandora, the jewelry store, to kind of help with funding, especially like during holidays. Retail, you pick up quite a bit of hours. So I was picking up hours, working, doing what I had to do. And then I had the hospital. Now, note, some of these aren't the most paying jobs, so you're going to be tired simply because you're going to have to put in hours to make whatever amount of money that you need. But once you figure out a method to getting your schooling paid for, that's like the easy part. So a few tips when it comes to once you've secured funding for your tuition and you've secured the funding, enough funding to be able to buy school supplies, books, that type of deal. A few tips that I have is, 1, don't buy school supplies when school supplies are out. What I mean by that is stores do a really big marketing push where they put out all these different school supplies. Don't buy it then. Wait until a few weeks after the primary school starts. So like elementary, middle school, high school. Wait about a week or 2 until those schools start. And then retail stores like Walmart, Target will start discounting school supplies, and you can get them at a more affordable rate than buying them full price, which helps you to save money. Another thing is going to counselors or spiritual counselors at your school and possibly speaking with them on getting financial assistance with uniforms. Like, yes, most programs say you need 3 pairs of uniforms, but if all you can get is 1 pair, you purchase that 1 pair along with your lab coat and whatever shoes they require, and then ask the spiritual counselor. Like at my school, we had a spiritual counselor who students donated scrubs to. And so basically, do what you got to do. Make sure you wash them real good. Bam, you got your uniform for clinical. A third thing is, when it comes to books, only purchase books where you have to have an access code. If that book doesn't require you to have an access code, rent it. However, rent books after the beginning of college classes. So what I mean by that is, for me, something I did was I waited a week after class started. So during that first week, I understand, you're wanting to get your books and stuff ahead of time. But if this is like a second career option, you got to kind of figure out what you need to do in order to make it work. So purchase books that week after school starts. So that way, a lot of rental book places, the bookstore, they do discounts. So for example, I was able to rent my books for $150, and that was all the books that I needed for that entire semester, which was pretty awesome, simply because the textbook brokers rental place that I got my books was doing a special. So always look for specials. Another thing is check out websites where there are used books. So like required books that I know, like not know, grammar, knew that I would need. Basically, I use websites such as abebooks.com and found really gently used books through them. Some of them had the covers missing, but guess what? The pages was there and I was able to get what I needed to get. So basically, going to cheap textbook websites like that and finding books that way will definitely help to cut the cost of your books, because books can get really expensive. Now, there were a few books that I purchased. I just bit the bullet and purchased, but I basically purchased them from the publisher, which is another tip when it comes to getting textbooks. The publisher typically is going to give you some type of coupon. If you sign up for an account, they're going to send some type of code. Every little bit helps. Every little bit works. So I basically purchased like big mainstream books directly from the publisher, simply because the publisher will give me free shipping plus 25% off. Some even did 50%. You just kind of have to like look for it, and you kind of have to go around the outlets of doing it. And then if I needed a book for the next semester, what I would do is I basically started looking at my books, like looking for them in the middle of the semester. If I just needed to rent from Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or something, then those books are way cheaper when you rent in the middle of the semester versus trying to rent them right when the semester starts, because places jack prices up. So those are just like a few tidbits of tips to kind of help get you through and to get you the funding that you need. Other forms of funding that can be helpful for you being able to pursue your dreams and manage your education is a lot of jobs offer tuition reimbursement programs, and most of them you have to work there for a year, some 6 months. So if you know that you have a few prerequisites you need to take, and you're wanting to go to nursing school, go apply for a job and stay there 6 months to a year, so that way they can help pay for your schooling. And sometimes you may have to do a work commitment, but trust me guys, it's easier to do a work commitment and work 2 years for a company and get your education paid for. Just saying, that's a lot easier to do versus trying to just figure it all out. It's easier to do it that way. And even with you working for that company, for example, the VA has awesome benefits. So if you're able to get a VA job in the lab or in a clinic or as a nurse assistant, whatever the case may be, if you're able to get some type of job, even a patient care tech, get that job, hold it down for 6 months to a year, and that institution would possibly pay for your education or give you some form of assistance, which is a great start because you have to think about it. You didn't really have much funding to begin with. So those are a few of the things that I've basically have done. If all else fails, you can ask family and friends to help contribute, but not everyone has family or friends to contribute to their education. So the other ways, they all work. Some of those ways are very tiring. Some of those ways you may feel like you want to give up. but for the most part, they're always on how to get your education funded and to get you to accomplishing your dreams and goals. So I really hope that this video was helpful to somebody. I've been an LPN a year now, which that will be another video, but it's doable. If everything was easy, everybody would do it. So just keep that in mind when you're pursuing your dreams, especially with nursing. Nursing is not easy. I don't care if you've been working in the healthcare field for 50 years. It's not easy because it's ever changing, it's multifaceted, and it's a bajillion different personalities and people you deal with each and every day. So be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and know that in the end, you can do it, even when it gets hard. So, guys, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, ask questions. I'm going to link those various sites below, as well as a few organizations that I can think of that offer scholarships. I'll even link the student financial aid website. Last tidbit before I log off, y'all see me with my pen, is check with your state organizations. And when I say state organizations, your state Department of Health, not health, education. Look, I'm getting mixed up here. Sometimes your state Department of Education may have programs in place for non-traditional students or second career change students. Even if you aren't one of those students and you're just a student that's needing assistance with education, they have workforce programs that are willing to help people get into nursing jobs, respiratory therapy, radiology. There's tons and tons of grants and other type of things out there with your state board of nursing, as well as the state Department of Education. So check with those state organizations to see what they offer. And you never know, you may just find enough money to pay for what you need to pay for, or to at least get books. Every little bit helps. Anything helps. Everything works. So just kind of check those organizations out. So like I stated before, I really hope that this video was helpful, and I am going to get off of here because it's like storming outside. So you guys have a great day. Bye.